The last line of defense. Guardian 7 hung silently in Earth's orbit, its weathered solar panels catching the first rays of dawn. Most called it a relic, a testament to humanity's earlier attempts at space defense before quantum computing and neural interfaces became standard. Dr. Sarah Chen called it home. "Happy birthday, old friend," she whispered, her breath fogging the observation window of her small maintenance pod. The defense platform had turned 50 today, ancient by modern standards. While the rest of Earth's defensive grid sparkled with holographic shields and plasma arrays, Guardian 7 relied on conventional railguns and analog targeting systems. Sarah checked her tablet, reviewing the morning diagnostics. The brass had been trying to decommission Guardian 7 for years, but something always seemed to prevent its retirement. Budget reallocations, bureaucratic oversights, and lately, Sarah's own creative interpretation of maintenance schedules. She knew every bolt and circuit of the platform, having spent the last decade as its chief engineer and caretaker. "Dr. Chen, your quarterly review is overdue," Commander Hayes' voice crackled through her comm, intentionally using the old radio frequency Guardian 7 still operated on. "The Defense Council is particularly interested in your recommendation regarding decommissioning." Sarah sighed, pushing away from the window. "Sending it now, Commander. Though my assessment hasn't changed. Guardian 7's systems are operating within acceptable parameters, and its power consumption remains lower than any modern platform in the grid. That's because it can barely power a coffee maker compared to our current defensive capabilities," Hayes replied, though Sarah detected a hint of amusement in his voice. He'd served on Guardian 7 in his younger days and understood her attachment to the old station. The conversation was interrupted by a sudden alert from her tablet. Sarah frowned, checking the readings. Guardian 7's long-range sensors were picking up something unusual. The platform's older technology still used radio astronomy and traditional radar, unlike the quantum detection systems of modern stations. "Commander," Sarah called out, "are you seeing any anomalies on the modern arrays?" There was a pause before Hayes responded. "Negative, Dr. Chen. All quantum sensors show clear space." "Why?" Sarah's fingers flew across her console, bringing up more detailed scans. Guardian 7 is detecting something at the edge of the solar system. Multiple objects, massive ones, moving in formation. "That's impossible," Hayes replied. "The quantum network would have detected any objects of that size. Run a diagnostic on your sensors." "Already did. Triple-checked the results." Sarah felt a chill run down her spine as she studied the readings. "Commander, these objects are accelerating. Their trajectory suggests they're headed directly for Earth." Before Hayes could respond, every modern communication channel went dead. The quantum network, the neural links, even the automated defense systems, all fell silent simultaneously. Only Guardian 7's old radio system remained functional. Through her window, Sarah watched in horror as Earth's state-of-the-art defensive platforms began powering down one by one, their holographic shields flickering out of existence. In the distance, the first visual confirmation of the approaching objects appeared. Massive ships of an alien design, their surfaces seeming to bend light itself. "This is Commander Hayes to all stations, switching to emergency radio frequencies." His voice came through Guardian 7 speakers, tight with controlled panic. "We have multiple contacts, unknown origin. All quantum-based systems are non-responsive. I repeat, all modern defensive systems are down." Sarah's hands gripped her console as she processed the implications. Whatever these aliens were, they had just disabled humanity's entire defensive network with apparent ease. Every weapons platform, every modern ship, every advanced system humanity relied upon was now useless. Every system except one. Guardian 7's analog sensors continued their steady sweep of space, its outdated systems immune to whatever had crippled its more advanced counterparts. Its railguns, powered by simple electromagnetic principles, remained ready. Its targeting computers, running on programming that predated quantum technology, still functioned perfectly. "Commander," Sarah's voice was steady despite her racing heart. Guardian 7 stands ready. Request permission to assume active defensive status. There was a long pause before Hayes responded, and Sarah could imagine the calculations running through his mind. Guardian 7 was obsolete, outgunned, and alone. It was also humanity's only remaining line of defense. Permission granted. Dr. Chen. Guardian 7 is now designated as Earth's primary defensive platform. Hayes paused again before adding, God help us all. Sarah began powering up Guardian 7's weapons systems, the old platform humming to life around her. The aliens had disabled humanity's most advanced technology with ease, but they were about to learn a harsh lesson about underestimating the old ways. Sometimes, being obsolete had its advantages. When old meets new, alarms blared throughout Guardian 7's command center as Sarah worked furiously at her station. The alien ships had entered the inner solar system, their massive forms distorting space itself as they approached. Earth's modern defense fleet drifted helplessly in orbit, their quantum cores rendered inert by the alien technology. Status report. Commander Hayes demanded over the radio. He had relocated to an ancient hardened bunker beneath the Rocky Mountains, one of the few command centers still operating on conventional power. Guardian 7 systems are fully operational, Sarah replied, her fingers dancing across analog controls that would have been considered museum pieces anywhere else. Main railgun batteries charged and tracking. Point defense systems active. But sir, she hesitated, checking the readings again. These alien ships, they're unlike anything we've ever encountered. The platform's old radar systems painted a clearer picture with each passing minute. The alien vessels seemed to phase in and out of normal space, their movements defying conventional physics. Yet somehow, Guardian 7's primitive sensors could still track them when modern quantum detection systems remained blind. Dr. Chen. A new voice crackled over the radio. This is Dr. Marcus Wei from the Quantum Physics Institute. We've been analyzing your sensor data. There's something remarkable about it. Sarah adjusted her headset, keeping one eye on the approaching alien fleet. Go ahead, Dr. Wei. Your platform's old radar system. It's not just tracking the aliens, it's seeing through their defenses completely. Our theory is that they've developed their technology around manipulating quantum fields, making them invisible to our modern sensors. But Guardian 7's simple radio waves and electromagnetic detection methods, they're so basic that they bypass all that complexity. A small smile crossed Sarah's face. Sometimes the simplest solution is the best one. There's more, Wei continued excitedly. We've detected patterns in their ship movements, but only through your old sensors. Their quantum field manipulation seems to create a kind of technological blind spot. They've evolved their systems so far beyond conventional physics that they've forgotten about the basics. The implications hit Sarah like a thunderbolt. She quickly pulled up Guardian 7's weapon specifications, an idea forming in her mind. Commander Hayes, the railguns, they're just electromagnetically accelerated projectiles. No quantum guidance, no neural targeting, just pure kinetic energy. You think they might be vulnerable? Hayes asked, hope creeping into his voice for the first time since the invasion began. Their defenses are built to stop quantum weapons and energy beams, Sarah explained, her excitement growing. They might not be prepared for something as primitive as a tungsten rod moving at relativistic speeds. A new alarm caught her attention. The alien fleet had entered Guardian 7's weapons range, spreading out in an attack formation that suggested they viewed the obsolete platform as nothing more than an annoyance. Dr. Chen, Hayes' voice was firm. You have authorization to engage. Show them what obsolete technology can do. Sarah's hands moved across her console with practiced efficiency, bringing Guardian 7's main batteries to bear. The platform's old targeting computer might have been primitive by modern standards, but it had been designed with redundancy in mind. No quantum uncertainty, no neural networks, just pure mathematical calculations and Newtonian physics. Target locked, she reported, feeling Guardian 7 vibrate as its railguns charged. Firing solution computed. Time to impact, 30 seconds. The alien ships made no attempt to evade as Guardian 7's railguns roared to life. Why would they? Their quantum fields could deflect any modern weapon, and their sensors likely didn't even register the simple projectiles as threats. That was their first mistake. The tungsten rods, accelerated to a significant fraction of light speed by Guardian 7's electromagnetic launchers, struck the lead alien ship with devastating force. No quantum fields or advanced technology could change the basic laws of physics. Kinetic energy equals mass times velocity squared. The alien vessel's hull crumpled under the impact, its quantum fields fluctuating wildly before collapsing completely. For a moment, everything seemed to pause as both sides processed what had just happened. An obsolete defense platform, scheduled for decommissioning, had just done what Earth's entire modern fleet could not. It had drawn first blood. The alien fleet's response was immediate and furious. Energy weapons of impossible design lashed out at Guardian 7, but Sarah was already implementing evasive maneuvers. The platform's old chemical thrusters weren't as precise as modern quantum drives, but their jerky, unpredictable movements made Guardian 7 a surprisingly difficult target. Multiple hits confirmed, Sarah reported, allowing herself a moment of satisfaction. Their quantum fields offer no protection against kinetic impacts. Guardian 7's weapons are effective. Well done, Dr. Hayes replied. But this is just the beginning. They'll adapt their tactics now that they know we can hurt them. The question is, can one obsolete platform stand against their entire fleet? Sarah watched as the alien ships regrouped, their formation tightening. They would not underestimate Guardian 7 again. But that was fine. She had more surprises in store. Sometimes the old ways weren't just reliable. They were deadly. The price of pride. Guardian 7's command center shook violently as another alien barrage struck its reinforced hull. Sarah gripped her console, watching as damage reports scrolled across the ancient LCD screens. The platform's thick armor, designed in an era before energy shields, had proven surprisingly resilient against the aliens' exotic weapons. Hull integrity at 65%, she reported, wiping sweat from her forehead. The environmental systems were struggling to keep up with the heat generated by Guardian 7's constant maneuvering. Main railgun battery 2 is offline, but 1 and 3 are still operational. Status of the alien fleet, Hayes asked through the crackling radio. The background noise suggested frantic activity in the bunker beneath the Rockies. Sarah checked her radar display. The aliens had adapted their tactics after the initial shock of losing one of their ships. They now moved in complex patterns, though Guardian 7's simple tracking systems could still follow them. 17 ships remaining in attack formation. They're being more cautious now, staying just outside our optimal firing range. Dr. Chen, Dr. Wei's voice cut in. We've been analyzing the data from your engagements. There's something fascinating about their behavior patterns. Sarah launched another spread of kinetic projectiles, forcing a group of alien ships to break formation. I'm a little busy right now, Doctor. This is important, Wei insisted. Their ships, they're not just technologically advanced, they're completely dependent on their quantum systems. Every maneuver, every attack, every defensive measure relies on quantum field manipulation. They don't appear to have any backup systems, no redundancies. Makes sense, Sarah replied, initiating Guardian 7's backup cooling protocols. When you think you've mastered the fundamental forces of the universe, why bother with alternatives? Exactly. Wei's excitement was palpable even through the old radio connection. But that's their weakness. They've become so reliant on their advanced technology that they've forgotten the basic principles that got them there. Every problem they face, they try to solve with quantum manipulation. A new alert drew Sarah's attention. The alien ships were moving into a new formation, their quantum fields beginning to resonate in a pattern her sensors hadn't seen before. They're up to something. Energy readings are off the charts. Sarah, Hayes' voice was urgent. "We're detecting massive power buildups. Whatever they're planning, it's big." The alien ships arranged themselves in a perfect circle, energy coursing between them in visible streams. Their quantum fields merged and amplified, creating a disruption effect far more powerful than anything they'd shown before. "They're trying to brute force their way through," Sarah realized, "using their quantum fields to overwhelm us through sheer power." She quickly reviewed Guardian 7 systems, looking for options. The platform's railguns, while effective, couldn't penetrate the combined quantum fields the aliens were generating. Then she noticed something on her power distribution panel, a readout that hadn't changed in decades. Guardian 7's nuclear reactor, a relic from the fission age, had been considered woefully inadequate compared to modern power sources. But it was still running, still generating electricity through the simple process of atomic decay. "Dr. Wei," Sarah called out, an idea forming. "These quantum fields they're generating, they require perfect coherence to function, right?" "Correct. The slightest disruption in the quantum state could cascade through their entire network." Sarah's fingers flew across her console, redirecting power flow throughout Guardian 7. What would happen if we introduced a massive source of electromagnetic interference? Not as a weapon, but as background noise. There was a pause as Y considered the implications. Their quantum fields would try to compensate, but if the interference was strong enough, widespread enough, they might not be able to maintain coherence. "Commander Hayes," Sarah's voice was steady despite the tension, "I have a plan, but it's going to mean taking Guardian 7's reactor to levels it was never designed to handle." "What are you proposing, Doctor?" "We remove the reactor's safety limiters, channel all that power not into weapons, but into creating the biggest electromagnetic pulse this side of the solar system. Their quantum fields might be able to handle our railguns, but let's see how they deal with raw radiation and electromagnetic chaos." Hayes was silent for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was grim. "The EMP would likely fry most of Guardian 7's systems. You'd be sacrificing the platform." Sarah watched as the alien ships continued to build power, their combined quantum fields growing stronger by the second. Guardian 7 was supposed to be decommissioned anyway. Might as well go out with a bang. "Do it," Hayes ordered. "But Sarah, the reactor breach would be catastrophic. You need to evacuate." "No time," she replied, already beginning the process of overriding the reactor's safety protocols. "Someone has to maintain manual control during the overload, or the pulse won't be properly focused." She didn't mention that the aliens would likely shoot down any escape pod she tried to use. The alien fleet's energy buildup reached its peak, their quantum fields ready to deliver what they probably thought would be a killing blow. But Sarah had learned long ago that sometimes the best defense wasn't sophisticated technology or advanced weapons. Sometimes it was just the willingness to break all the rules. Calculated risks. Warning klaxons blared throughout Guardian 7 as Sarah raced against time. The platform's ancient reactor core pulsed with dangerous energy as she systematically disabled safety protocols that had protected it for half a century. Each override required manual confirmation, a safety measure from an era when engineers still believed in human oversight. "Reactor temperature exceeding design parameters," she reported, her voice steady despite the sweat dripping down her face. The command center's temperature had risen to nearly unbearable levels as cooling systems diverted power to the reactor. "Estimated 5 minutes until critical mass. The alien fleet is moving into final attack position," Hayes warned through the increasingly static-filled radio channel. "Whatever you're going to do, it needs to happen soon." Sarah's fingers danced across multiple keyboards, managing dozens of systems simultaneously. Guardian 7 had been built before AI assistants, requiring actual human operators to coordinate its functions. Right now, that seemingly archaic design philosophy was proving invaluable. No quantum-based computer system could have survived the radiation levels she was generating. "Dr. Chen." Dr. Wei's voice cut through the static. "We've been analyzing your reactor modifications. The electromagnetic pulse you're building, it's not just going to disrupt their quantum fields. At these power levels, it could tear them apart completely. That's the idea, Sarah replied, grimacing as another warning light flashed red. The coolant line had ruptured on Deck 3, but the old platform's compartmentalized design prevented a cascade failure. Their technology is so advanced that they've never needed to account for brute force interference. Sometimes the sledgehammer works better than the scalpel. The alien fleet had arranged themselves in a perfect sphere around Guardian 7, their combined quantum fields creating patterns of light that hurt to look at. Their confidence was almost palpable. They clearly believed their advanced technology made them invincible. Detecting massive energy buildup in the alien fleet, Hayes reported. They're powering up their primary weapons. Sarah checked her reactor readings. The core temperature was approaching levels that would have triggered an automatic shutdown if she hadn't disabled those systems. Let them come. The closer they are, the better this will work. Sarah, Hayes' voice softened slightly. There's still time to evacuate. We can trigger the pulse remotely. She shook her head, though he couldn't see it. The timing has to be perfect. Too early, and they'll have time to adapt. Too late, and their attack will destroy us before the pulse reaches full strength. Someone needs to stay and calculate the exact moment. A new alarm joined the chorus. Hull breach on Deck 5. The alien weapons were beginning to penetrate Guardian 7's armor. Sarah sealed off the affected sections, remembering all the times she had run damage control drills over the years. The old platform had been her home for so long, its corridors and systems as familiar as her own heartbeat. 3 minutes to critical mass, she announced, rerouting power from life support to maintain reactor stability. The air was getting thin, but she wouldn't need it for much longer anyway. Dr. Wei, are you ready to record the effects? This is probably the only chance we'll get to study how their quantum fields react to such massive electromagnetic interference. All sensors are ready, Wei confirmed, his scientific curiosity evident even in this dire situation. Though I doubt our modern equipment will survive the pulse. Sarah allowed herself a small smile. Good thing we still have these old Geiger counters and analog gauges then. Sometimes the old ways are the best ways. The alien fleet's energy buildup reached its peak, their quantum fields resonating in perfect harmony. Through Guardian 7's simple radar display, Sarah could see them preparing to unleash their full power. They had no idea that their greatest strength, their absolute mastery of quantum mechanics, was about to become their downfall. 1 minute to critical mass, she reported, her voice growing hoarse from the superheated air. Commander Hayes, it's been an honor. The honor has been ours, Dr. Chen, Hayes replied solemnly. Guardian 7 and her crew will not be forgotten. Sarah's hands moved across her console one last time, initiating the final sequence. The reactor's containment fields were already failing, radiation leaking into the surrounding decks. But none of that mattered now. All that mattered was timing. Waiting for that perfect moment when the aliens' quantum fields were at their most coherent, their defenses fully committed to their attack. Through her observation window, she could see the alien ships glowing with impossible energy, their quantum fields bending space itself as they prepared to strike. They had brought their most advanced technology, their most sophisticated weapons, their mastery over the fundamental forces of the universe. Sarah had brought an old nuclear reactor and a willingness to break every safety protocol ever written. Sometimes, she whispered, reaching for the final override switch. Primitive problems require primitive solutions. Legacy of the obsolete. Time seemed to slow as Sarah triggered Guardian 7's reactor overload. The ancient nuclear core, pushed far beyond its design limits, released its pent-up energy not as heat or power, but as a massive electromagnetic pulse. The wave of energy expanded outward like a ripple in space itself, invisible but unstoppable. For a fraction of a second, nothing seemed to happen. The alien fleet maintained their perfect formation, their quantum fields glowing with impossible power as they prepared to deliver their killing blow. Then reality reasserted itself. The pulse struck their combined quantum fields like a tsunami hitting a sandcastle. The aliens' sophisticated technology, so dependent on perfect quantum coherence, began to unravel. Ship after ship lost containment as their quantum fields collapsed, their impossible geometries failing as fundamental physics reasserted its dominance. Direct hit, Sarah reported through gritted teeth, the command center's temperature now well beyond human tolerance. Their quantum fields are destabilizing. Cascading failure throughout their fleet. Through static-filled channels, she could hear celebrations erupting in the bunker beneath the Rockies. The aliens' supposedly invincible technology, their mastery over quantum mechanics, had been undone by radiation from a 50-year-old nuclear reactor. Multiple detonations detected, Hayes announced, his voice filled with awe. Their power cores are going critical. The entire fleet, they're falling apart. Sarah watched through failing sensors as the alien ships began to break up, their quantum fields collapsing completely. The few vessels that tried to retreat found their advanced propulsion systems non-functional, their technology rendered useless by the continuing electromagnetic interference. Dr. Chen, Dr. Wei's voice barely penetrated the static. The readings we're getting. It's revolutionary. Their quantum technology. It was so advanced that they never developed protection against basic electromagnetic interference. They literally couldn't conceive of being attacked by something so primitive. A bitter laugh escaped Sarah's parched throat. Pride comes before a fall. Doctor, they forgot the foundations their technology was built on. Guardian 7 systems were failing now, circuits fried by the same pulse that had devastated the alien fleet. The old platform's robust design had protected its core functions longer than any modern system could have managed, but even it had limits. Sarah, Hayes called out urgently, Guardian 7's structural integrity is failing. You need to get out of there now. She looked around the command center, at the simple displays and manual controls that had served humanity so well in its hour of need. No time for that, Commander. Besides, she patted her console affectionately. A captain goes down with their ship. Through her observation window, Sarah could see the Earth below, still beautiful, still safe. The alien fleet that had threatened it was now nothing more than debris, their advanced technology reduced to scrap by what they had considered primitive and obsolete. Tell them, she said, her voice growing weaker as the air thinned. Tell them to remember this. Tell them not to be so quick to discard the old ways. Sometimes the simplest solution is the best one. Guardian 7's hull finally gave way, decades-old metal surrendering to the forces tearing it apart. As her consciousness faded, Sarah thought she heard Hayes saying something about rescue ships, about modern vessels restored to operation now that the alien quantum interference was gone. But it didn't matter anymore. She had done her duty, proved that humanity's obsolete technology still had value. The last thing she saw before darkness took her was Earth's rescue fleet approaching, their quantum drives gleaming in the sunlight. But leading them was something that made her smile. An old-style chemical rocket, its simple engines burning bright and true. They had learned the lesson after all. 3 months later, Commander Hayes stood at a podium before the United Earth Defense Council, his dress uniform adorned with new medals. Behind him, a holographic display showed the construction of a new defensive network. The alien attack taught us a valuable lesson, he declared, his voice carrying through the assembly hall. In our rush to embrace new technology, we had forgotten the importance of redundancy, of maintaining systems that our enemies cannot easily counter. The display shifted, showing the new defense platforms. Unlike their predecessors, these combined modern quantum technology with old-style backup systems. Nuclear reactors supplemented quantum cores, analog targeting computers backed up AI systems, and simple radar arrays operated alongside quantum sensors. Dr. Sarah Chen's sacrifice showed us that true strength lies not in having the most advanced technology, but in maintaining a balance between the old and the new. Guardian 7 may have been considered obsolete, but in our darkest hour, It was exactly what we needed. In high orbit, a new defense platform took its position. Its quantum shield sparkled in the sunlight, but its hull bore an old designation, Guardian 8. Inside its command center, both holographic displays and simple LCD screens monitored space. Its weapons systems included both quantum torpedoes and simple railguns. And at its heart, alongside its quantum core, sat a nuclear reactor, ready to power the platform if needed. A plaque near the main entrance bore a simple inscription, dedicated to Dr. Sarah Chen and Guardian 7, who proved that obsolete is just another word for tested and true. The stars twinkled silently overhead, unchanged by the recent battle. But humanity's view of them had changed forever. They had learned that sometimes the old ways weren't just reliable. They were revolutionary. And if another threat ever came from the depths of space, Earth would be ready, armed with both the wisdom of the past and the technology of the future. After all, as Sarah Chen had proven, sometimes the best defense isn't the most advanced weapon, but the one your enemy never expects you to use.